Hello once again, watchers of good movies. My name is Nick Pell and this is my review of Dark Phoenix. Now this is the fourth and final installment in the more or less rebooted X-Men franchise from Fox. It's the final movie from Fox before the X-Men are eventually initiated into the Marvel Cinematic Universe. And so let's talk about this thing. The story takes place after the events of X-Men Apocalypse in the 1990s, in 1992 to be specific, and it deals with a time when the X-Men are celebrated as heroes, as superheroes. They're off being recruited by the President of the United States to go and save people, save these astronauts at the beginning of the movie from this perilous mission which has gone awry. It's cool to see them as heroes in this timeline in the 90s because we know eventually, probably due to events in this film, they are kind of have to go in hiding and they're not seen as the best people necessarily. So as the trailers show, and as you probably know if you're going to see this film, the X-Men, they go up into space to save some astronauts, and they end up encountering a solar flare which ends up being the Pheonix Force. Jean Grey ends up absorbing it to some degree, and she ends up with these superpowers which made her basically a badass, but she's not able to control it, and so things go awry, things happen, and we have our movie. Sophie Turner, I think, does a good job in this film. She does a good job playing Jean Grey. The problem is that we haven't really had a chance to really meet her or explore her character outside of her introduction in X-Men Apocalypse, because that's the first time, from what I can recall at least, that we were really introduced to her version of this character. And so we just don't have the level of knowing her or experience with her as we have with, say, like Iron Man or Robert Downey Jr.'s version of Iron Man or Captain America or Thor or anything from the MCU. And the problem this film has is probably the fact that it's coming out so close to Avengers Endgame, where we have this big finale with all these MCU characters which we've gotten to learn about and gotten to know about and love for the last 10 years. Dark Phoenix being kind of another endpoint for the X-Men franchise in particular kind of has to compete with that, and it doesn't do it nearly as well because we have not been getting to know a lot of these characters, or a lot of these key characters, for nearly as long of a time. Yes, we've had like James McAvoy's Xavier and Michael Fassbender's Magneto and Jennifer Lawrence's Mystique, but aside from those three characters, we haven't really gotten to know most of the others. And so, as a result, a lot of the points in this film just don't really feel earned. A lot of these relationships aren't nearly as fleshed out as they really could be. I could see the MCU doing this movie in 10 years down the line or something if they decide to try to do a third version of the Dark Phoenix story, and I think that they will probably have done a Jean Grey movie or some capacity where she has been in a number of different movies and have like an Avengers Dark Phoenix type of film, and have, if the film ends in the same way this film ends, it would feel much more earned and much more emotional and just done in a much better way. Again, I'm not saying Sophie Turner does a bad job. I think she does a good job with what she's given, but the film just can't live up to where it's trying to reach with its emotional high points as a result of just us not knowing a lot about these characters. James McAvoy and Michael Fassbender, to an extent, they also do good jobs with their roles, I thought. They just take the history that they've been given and they do good things with them. There are some cool fight sequences as well involving both of these characters, or all three of these characters. And I enjoyed seeing those on screen. They were really fun to see play out. Also, anything with Sophie Turner using her Phoenix abilities is also really cool to see on screen. We saw most of it in the trailers, which is kind of disappointing, but I thought that she, again, did a very good job with the roles that she was given, and what we saw on screen was also very well done. That said, a lot of the fight sequences in this film just have some not great CGI elements to them. For example, we have Storm using lightning abilities throughout the last third of the film maybe, and it's really hard not to compare that to Thor's thunder abilities and lightning powers in Infinity War, Ragnarok, and Endgame, because it's just done in such a more better way, in my opinion. And it's made me even want to see Storm in the MCU alongside Thor eventually, because that would be a really cool team up to see on screen, two people who can harness the same abilities more or less. And it's just a shame that the powers just don't look nearly as good as something like the MCU has done. I know it's kind of comparing apples to oranges to an extent, but these are both Marvel superhero films, and it's just really easy to compare the two, and it's just not nearly as good or fleshed out. A lot of the high points of the film, or the exciting parts, are also kind of spoiled in the trailers for this movie. There's a big death which happens about 45 minutes into the film, which the trailer basically foreshadows, and once you kind of have an idea of who it's going to be, you can see all the foreshadowing happening really easily. And that's a bummer, because if the trailers had been very ambiguous, if they hadn't shown that big high point, it would have been much more of a shock, I think, at least. So overall, is Dark Pheonix a bad film? No. It's fine. I had a fun enough time watching it. It's enjoyable enough. It has some good moments. I thought Sophie Turner and James McAvoy did well enough. Pheonix powers are fun to see, and there were some cool fight sequences. But when you're comparing two different, very distinct endpoints with Endgame and Dark Pheonix, it's really tough to not compare the two. And just having Avengers Endgame come out a little over a month ago, it's just tough not to compare them. It's not my least favorite film in the X-Men franchise by far. I think there are some others that just didn't work nearly as well, in my opinion. But it's not nearly as good as it could have been with, I mean, they should have done a different story, basically. They shouldn't have done Dark Pheonix. They should have done some other story to tie up this fourth installment. They didn't know it was going to be the final installment, to be fair, but it could have been better. So if you're a fan of the other three rebooted X-Men films with McAvoy and Fassbender, check it out just to see the finale. I think it's fine. Again, it's a good enough X-Men movie, but it's just nothing that's gonna like wow you or amaze you or anything of that sort, really. So guys, those are my thoughts on Dark Pheonix. Let me know yours in the comments down below. Did you like it as much as I did? Did you hate it more than I did? Let me know. What is your favorite movie in the X-Men franchise? I don't really count Deadpool. I know it's part of it technically, but I don't really count it. So let me know your favorite X-Men film aside from the Deadpool movies. I'd love to hear it in the comments down below. Also, like, favorite, comment, and subscribe. Once again, if you so choose, I appreciate it immensely. And as always, people, my name is Nick Pell, and once again, keep on watching.